Okay. You bring the bog troll body back to the Aarakocra. Do you want to still hunt some venison as well? See if you can.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, in which case that's just a straight survival roll, I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
It is going to take time, you know, depending on the roll, but that's fine.
Here comes my first natty one.
You find a bog troll.
I was pointing the bow backwards. I shoot myself.
Do you want to know what's funny?
Die.
I've actually just read the rules of the hunting chart I use, and it says if you have proficiency in both survival and stealth, you have advantage, which makes sense, right? So,
Okay.
in a way that we will remember this forever, please re-roll due to your proficiency in both.
Okay. I'm
If you still get a nat 1.
2 more nat ones incoming.
Despite a moment of dread where you thought it was all lost, you do manage to find some, you know, where some deer are hiding out from the winter weather. Well, actually, it's not like a blizzard right now, so there are probably some deer taking some tentative attempts to move from one safe spot to another, where you can hunt 2 or so. You don't want to make it really difficult to travel back there. And bring their... do you want to, you know, bring the whole carcass, or...
We would definitely
cut up the meat?
Gut it. We would gut it.
That
so
makes
that
sense.
Not heavy anymore.
Yeah, that's the smart idea.
Probably behead it and like we would offer them the head too, so they can have
bring both
or
but
whatever.
It's kind of like the, you know, that's what you would do if you were hunting out in this sort of territory. Cool, excellent. You bring the deer and the bog troll to the Aarakocra village, right by the lake where they can see you. You can see, actually, some of the Aarakocra having, you know, a conversation about this, because they have the walkways between the buildings. You can see them quite evidently. And after 5 or so minutes of conversation, one of them will swoop up and come down. And that's actually a point. With you guys kind of hovering around the area, there are some flying around with spears. Not like coming to attack you or anything, but just so they have a better view of the area. One of them swoops up and comes down. They... At first you think they might be elderly due to the silver pigmentation on some of their feathers. But at a closer examination, they are probably in their, you know, their 20s or equivalent for Aarakocra, the shorter lifespans, but not by much. They just have a rare silver pigmentation that makes their skin, or their feathers, some of them sort of shine. It's every, you know, a few of them, and it forms in a bit of a pattern, especially around the tips of his wings and shoulders and stuff like that. There's also some silver paint upon the kind of crest of his beak as well. But he will land near you and then sort of slowly approach. And sort of kneel by the offerings. It's not like a full kneel, it's kind of what's more comfortable to them. And then close up their wings.
I'll get down in a low bow. And I'll say, we come with 2 gifts and a request.
What language would you speak to him in?
Common.
Okay. He merely sort of tilts his head to the side in a very birdish way at the speech. The offering's quite clear. The language doesn't speak.
Would I know what language these guys speak?
You can give me a history check.
Oren would simply try in Oren.
Oh,
Repeating
okay.
what Bell said.
When you speak in Orin, there is a bit of a change in his posture. Oh, I have a dice face. One sec.
You're welcome.
There's a change in his posture. Torin, you actually immediately pick up on this, being that you kind of just spoke in like a cleric's tongue. Quite literally, right? It's not their usual language, but one that they seem to use for almost like a religious significance. He does adjust his posture, and give you a degree of a bow, actually. And in Orin will speak to you that your gift is very welcome. Please, whatever discussion you wish to have with us, you may have with me. My name is Silvertips.
The deer looks delicious. However, this was our pet bog troll.
Yeah. He was going to grow
We're
big and
furious.
strong.
You killed Boggy.
Could you imagine, and this totally does happen in some D&D games, where it's like, oh, you should really go and kill that bog troll. You should really go and kill that bog troll. And then you do it, and I'm like, I can't believe you killed that bog troll, guys. Why would you do that? Like, can you imagine?
I'd be pissed.
Get trolled.
And also, you know, I can't speak like a bird does, but I imagine there is kind of a almost like fluting undertone to the voice. Well, there would be like modulation effects I can't even do, but like almost like someone who's very good at speaking with like two tones at once. There would be kind of that trilling kind of undertone to it, especially when speaking Orin, which is a language of the air as well.
Silvertips, thank you for speaking with us. My name is Torin Stram. I'm a servant of my god of the air. This is Belara, and this is Amaryllis. We've come today to ask for your help. For many years you have been the rulers, the stewards of the sky. But in recent years, the skies no longer belong to you in this valley. The shadow has darkened much of our lands. The dragon needs to be stopped. And if you do not work with all the other creatures of the valley to stop it, then slowly your tranquil life will fade away. One day your pond here will be a festering pool filled with bog trolls. One day the deer will no longer run in the forests. And one day you too will serve Malakesh.
Why don't you give me a persuasion with advantage? I was kind of thinking whether you should even roll for this one, but I think a little bit just to see how they take it.
Nice.
It's not
No,
great.
no. Not allowing that.
I'm rolling so badly. Why am I Ian now?
Torin, there is a long pause. In that pause,
It
almost
just tears off my face.
almost within your peripheral vision, you see, for a moment you think you see them, more of the Aarakocra in the sky come low, in a very aggressive way. You even look up. It didn't happen. You're not sure if you were thinking pessimistically or whatever it was. But Silvertips is looking down at the venison and then looks at you more deliberately. It is clear you speak for the winds. It is true. If fight against the dragon, we must. then we shall all fight together. We are not warriors, but we will aid how we can.
They say they'll help us however they can.
Right. Does Oscar speak this language?
No, I mean, why would... Leha will,
Okay.
I
I
presume,
think
she told
We
me.
need to introduce Leha and Oscar to this handsome fellow,
His name's Silvertips.
to Silvertips.
It sounds a lot less sexual in Orin.
We primarily wanted their aid to ensure that the dragon could not escape via the air. They need not stand on the front lines. They simply need to harass and keep control.
Crowd the airspace.
Awesome. I imagine there would be a little bit more conversation. We don't necessarily need to roleplay of, well, feel free to come to Cornucopia, we're planning, all that sort of thing. Here's blah, blah, blah. And how many people will be coming and how many people will be staying here to protect the young and that kind of thing. And then I suppose the next mission is, if you choose to accept it, speak to the Gwaelings.
Right.
This is going to be great fun.
This
but
is going
yeah.
to turn into a massacre.
Do I know what Gwaelings like to eat?
Do I know what language Graylings speak?
Also that.
Why don't you two give me, you can give me a nature roll, and
What
Amaris
weapon do
give me
they
a history
fear
roll.
most?
So was that history roll?
Yeah. Let me check what languages Gwaelings speak.
Beast tongue, I bet.
Yeah.
Seems
By the
like
way, for more conversations with them, Aarakocra also speak Beast Tongue as their basic language. Orin is kind of a spiritual language for them.
Okay. Balara might try it. But I feel like she wouldn't just know that, though. But she might...
No,
she
as in,
might-
I was saying for the Aarakocra, they speak Beast Tongue as well.
Right.
Now, you started to talk with them. You can tell.
I mean, we've already got their allegiance. It's not really
Exactly. Well,
Unless you
it
want
means
to
that
have-
Belle can talk to them,
Yeah.
right?
Unless you want to have a casual chat with them.
Well, she might. She might, like, start to get a little bit pesty like she did with Chandler and excited and be like, oh my god, what's it like to fly? Oh my
Yeah.
god, what's it
I mean,
like
you're building relationships that hopefully will last a lot longer than just one battle, right?
Mhm.
So, Gwaelings, of course, speak Beast Tongue as well. The thing with Beast Tongue is, you summarize it as one language, but it is many that are connected. Like a lot of languages in Jarviskjir, really. But if they say they just speak Beast Tongue, it's easy enough for other languages to speak. With Gnolls, it's so far removed, it's a little bit more confusing, which is why Belle had to like roll really well to translate from them. But they speak Beast Tongue, and sometimes Common as well. You wouldn't be surprised if some of them could speak Common.
They know the expletives.
Well, yeah, they yell at you to leave. And that's
Fuck
what
off
really...
out my river.
That's what you know about them, is no matter where in the world they are, no matter how many there are, Gwaelings hate everyone else. Not maliciously, they just, like, their way to make sure that people don't bother them is to threaten and be really aggressive. Rarely do they outright attack people. They're just very, very threatening. If you wandered while hunting too close to a Gwaeling community, they would all get out on top of their dams and like threaten you with
Mob
spears and
like,
throw stones near you. Yeah,
Like crows.
yeah, kind of. So scaring them is not really the right sort of tactic. Food-wise, they're otters. They eat fish. They actually really like oysters, which is funny because you actually know a place where you could get oysters if you had all the time in the world. Shinebank's like outer communities do a lot of oyster farming. There's no way you have a fresh oyster sitting in your pocket, though. You were there weeks ago. But that would be like their... There are tales of someone convincing a Gwailing to talk with a fresh oyster or something like that. Anything interesting. So, you know, they eat. You know, food is one of the best ways to get in the door.
Anything interesting, I will offer them the one ring.
You do not want a Gwailing to have the one ring. They are, of course, like I said, they are bitey. Straight up, they have a mechanic that they can basically disable someone's hands in combat by just biting and twisting. Like, they won't just try to kill you. They will bite you until you can't fight back and then leave you somewhere. Like, they are genuinely usually quite nasty to other people. So,
I want to see a picture of a Gwailing.
I haven't drawn one yet. They're a unique. They're an Ollieism.
Oh, okay. Well then,
Just
Were you googling it? Yeah.
Yeah,
where
No,
I have
that's
a couple of times. I'm spelling it wrong.
No, it's a Jarviskjir. It's
Okay.
it's a custom player race.
I want to see one, Ollie.
Well, I don't have an answer to that.
His commissions
Right
are
now.
currently open.
Yes, yeah, that's true. You guys are kind of talking about this as you're approaching. You even hear, you talk of all these kind of rumors. Like, I imagine Amaris is just telling all these stories of, and on this day, so-and-so the Great attempted to talk with the Gwailings, and the party of 12 was chased away from the banks. Like,
You got a toe bitten off.
exactly.
Oh my god!
Like,
I thought they never attacked. Or rarely attacked.
exactly. But if they do attack, it's usually defensively,
They go for
and
the- they go
usually
for
they're
the
taking a toe or a finger, right? Maybe an ear.
The
Depends
lead
on how tall
Gwailing
the
comes
Gwailing-
out. He's got like a pot belly. He's got like a necklace of toes.
But the ones in the valley haven't actually ever attacked anyone or anything like that, because everyone's like, just keep fucking away, steer clear, you know.
If one comes too near you when you're out fishing, you toss him a fish and move on.
Straight up, that would be like a strategy Bell probably would have been taught.
Harmony. That's how we used to live.
You get close to one of their communities. Now, Gwailings live all up and down the river, but this is where most of them live, which is, again, not far from Clearkeep, a little closer to the village. And I've described them before. They live in kind of like on the banks of the river in what are very similar to like a beaver's dam. It's like a structure made out of branches and earth, where from the outside it just looks like kind of a mound, but actually underground, you know, they can kind of splash into a space, like a dry space inside. There's kind of like a water lock thing going on. So a lot of the time they spend under the water or whatever. When you approach, Gwailings get out of their homes once they realize you're coming and stand on the top of them, as they do, with spears raised and that sort of thing, making a kind of yapping noise that travels quite a distance. If you've never seen an otter bare its teeth, they have very sharp teeth, and they are showing them. Gwailings are also around 3 feet tall. And they basically look like an otter standing on its back legs. You know, there's some bones and stuff are different, but it's more or less that. They are, you know, they're yapping, they're baring their teeth, they're raising their spears.
In Beast Tongue, I would say we come in peace with warning.
I think straight up persuasion. I think a lot of people go up to Gwailing saying we come in peace and leave with a finger bitten off.
Persuasion, you say?
Yeah.
Sure. As long as Roll20 cooperates.
It, like, you calling out to them does make them quiet down, but you can kind of see them kind of muttering amongst themselves and to others, and Even some of the young, like, pups being brought, like, inside homes just in case there's any sort of danger or anything.
Sure.
And there even seems to be some effort around one of the larger huts that has some sort of stone is very deliberately placed on top of it. And from out of that, what good language.
Comes the
Ollie.
champion. He's got a necklace of toes.
Comes
He's ripped. He's got a pot belly.
Notes.
And they all start chanting, Gwaio, Gwaio, Gwaio. And he like flexes, pops all his bones.
There it is. Comes a elder Gwailing. Their fur is kind of turning white in some areas. It's actually a little longer, kind of like, almost like at the nape of the neck. It's where the kind of hair comes down. All kinds of bangles and like wooden jewelry and simple stone things. And while most of the Gwailings have a spear with a stone tip, just wooden stone, this person's spear has been kind of turned into like a walking stick, quarterstaff kind of thing. Immediately there's parallels to Leha. This is their medicine woman, for lack of a better term. Who comes up quite close. There is a young Gwailing who kind of follows behind, kind of with sort of little containers of things and that sort of thing. Clearly an assistant. And they get up quite close. Everyone's far away and you're probably quite high, not quite down to the bank of the river yet. She kind of comes to a middle ground and will, tap the quarterstaff on the ground, which makes a kind of like rattling noise somehow, and will call out kind of loudly, in common actually. He's like, Speak what you wish to say!
Malakesh comes, and with her, poison and death.
What's that?
A dragon. You've noticed the foul water, the foul land, the dying animals. That's Malakesh.
Humans and Minotaur corrupt the land, as you always do, throwing your refuse in.
We've actually been a concentrated effort towards cleaning it up. We're fixing it. We need your help.
Why don't you give me a persuasion roll? To the grouchy otter lady. Yeah. I believe you, but what help? Help?
Whatever you can offer.
I think Amaryllis would actually at this point sort of, out of curiosity, do Gwailings have any sort of spirituality, religion, reverence for nature spirits or anything of the kind?
I think not to the degree of your community or the Aarakocra, but they definitely have some very sort of minor faith.
They're little believies.
Yeah.
Amaryllis would actually speak. We would not ask that you stand alongside us to fight this creature. Rather, that you defend your lands. The rivers near the village of the humans are where we make our stand. If you make yours in the rivers, prevent the Minotaur, we can focus on bringing down the dragon. You need not interact with us more than you need. And then she would add in Elder Sylvan, just as, like, not even knowing if this Grayling will understand, but she will add something that like rousing and poetic along the lines of, we stand for nature, the forests, and the rivers.
The Elder Gwailing comes a little closer. You try not to think about how adorable it looks as it kind of waddles closer, but still has very sharp teeth bared. We need something to rouse us together, something shiny, fun, interesting, like gold coins?
Amaryllis will just pull out the bag of money that she has somewhere and throw it. There's over 300 gold in that.
Yeah, and it like spills onto the land, and you hear like a like from the Gwailings as it catches the light, because they're not interested in the one. Like, this is just shiny and interesting and cool. And there's kind of like a nod and like, here then we will fight, tooth and claw. Minotaurs come, they won't leave.
I will speak to the Minotaur for you.
They're gonna kind of collect up the gold quite excitedly and sort of start preparing their weapons.
Amaryllis just nods and then sort of like begins to turn on her heel and says, "It is probably best we do not linger among them, leave them to their own devices. Interference would only brook animosity."
Think they'll stick to their word?
I think they will. If they do not, then we have lost nothing through our efforts here.
Okay. Back to the village. Start kind of planning everything together. Is there anything else anyone would like to do sort of before that?
I would have just thanked Amaryllis for stepping in where I was less useful.
Amaryllis would just, like, when on being thanked, Amaryllis would just sort of let a small smile and just say, "I am not excellent at negotiating with humans and others, but a race such as the Gwailings, they appreciate my distance."
I don't. Come here, you knucklehead. Big hug. No, she doesn't do that.
She wants to.
She wants to, like, tries to hop up and, like, can't reach Amaryllis' head.
I just jump on your back for a picnic.
Yeah. Climb the tree.
Excellent. Okay. As you get back to the village, because this didn't take all that long. I mean, sure, you futzed around hunting and stuff, but that was only a couple of hours. When you get back, on the west side of the village, that's not for flair, that's me literally remembering which way west is. On the west side of the village, the gnomes are setting up, with some assistance from people. What they are setting up is almost like a very basic siege weapon. Planting into the ground what is basically a giant, like, U-shaped sling. It's like a giant war sling. Very useful against the dragon. I mean, it can aim to some degrees, but really it's just a big shape of copper and brass with a sort of leather sling section. And they've got their cannonballs for it as well, which really are just cannonballs. So they're prepping that up. So you do have artillery, essentially, which might be quite good against the dragon. And of course, Aarakocra can fly. So some of them are already here, which you can see Lehar kind of communicating with some of them, because they are... You know, there's no reason why Aarakocra would have come out this far, aside from the stray wanderer, explorer, a la Bellara. there's so some of them are quite impressed. You have this living wall around the city, and by city I mean tiny village. But there's Aarakocra who kind of rest upon the branches of the wall that is alive with tree life, and sort of very much believe, even more so, that you are in any communication with spirits. They can kind of tell, and you can kind of tell that they're quite comfortable in the place, and they're sort of working out what they can do against the dragon, because Aarakocra are not really fighters, not just culturally, but they have hollow bones. They can't take much in combat. So it's really going to be like you said, kind of just like flying, causing a bit of a disturbance, getting in the way, throwing things, that sort of stuff. They'll be useful against the dragon. And their scouting potential will be very, very useful as the Minotaur forces mount and the coming fight grows ever closer. It really looks like the Minotaur are likely to attack tonight, based on the way they're moving amongst their camp on the other side of the river. What would you like to do? Back before that siege happens, right?
Kind of need a long rest.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Torin's never been on the eve of a war battle,
Yeah. And that's very much the atmosphere that's going on.
I think we ought to talk to Leha to see if there's any herbs or something that she can give us to make sure that we get restful sleep.
I think Torin's gonna go to Valara and drop Trout now.
Well, we might
One way to
die,
get
so...
Guys, gets on her knees.
Oh my lord.
I think Amaryllis would just... Amaryllis is as not bothered as ever, unless someone comes and gets her. She is just going to stand in the middle of a village and rest.
Fair enough. Yeah. To someone like Amaryllis, it's funny because there's clearly tension in the air, but at the same time there's all these people coming together and trying to communicate, and a lot of these people don't have a common language as well. But they are trying to communicate in whatever way that they can, and it's working out because you've got a common goal, so it's in the interest. So there's both a tension in the air and a sense of camaraderie, both of which are lost on Amaryllis.
Well, yeah, but what wouldn't be lost on Amaryllis is that this is very much like a critical juncture in the flow. Like, the outcome of what happens here has a huge impact on everything. So she would be sort of not really meditating. Amaryllis doesn't meditate. She would just be sort of immersing herself in the feel of the flow of time and events around her.
It's very much what you can see within the flow is like I say, critical juncture. Many places meet here, and then travel off, and that your abilities in the flow will be both vital and more difficult. It's almost like the Doctor Who thing of fixed points in time. What's about to happen is essentially going to be one of those. Critical juncture really is the best term for it. I'm going to use it in forever, as I have been using the flow after you've made Amaryllis. But yeah, this is going to be important and something that will weigh heavily on the flow and the community here for some time, depending on which way it goes. So that's Amaryllis. She's being a tree. Humans, what... Oh, you wanted to speak to Leha. That's right.
Valara at least would, and she would say something to the other two and be like, I'm gonna go do this. You can, Amaryllis, it might not work for you. Torin, if you want to come with me.
Torin would go to the graveyard and sit there on his own, absent-mindedly, with a finger in the pool, watching the little octopus in there, mulling over the fact that he is somehow supposed to bring down this dragon. to the floor, and how he cannot do that, and how he's supposed to have faith, but he cannot generate faith for something like this gargantuan a task.
Excellent. Well, as you have your existential crisis, let's deal with Dogsy's thing.
Not just sleep good, please.
It's a good idea, actually. Very much something your culture has in general as Northmen is you really want to sleep well before a battle. Even though your body is anxious and it might be difficult to sleep, if you are going into battle without sleep, it's super important. It is a killer. Bad sleep is said to be brought by Ing for such a reason. So Leha is not off on her own in the hut. She is talking to the Aarakocra in Orin, in the language of the winds. Very immersed in talking to them and explaining, the spiritual histories of them. When you come up, clearly intending to speak to her, I imagine you might kind of mull around for a bit while she's talking, but she will turn to you and let the Aarakocra go back to sort of what they were doing, and look around at the very busy small village. Almost as busy as it was several months ago, but very different kind of busy. I sense your anxiety, trepidation, perhaps.
I don't think I'm gonna sleep a wink without help.
I understand. There are remedies our people have for such a thing. Something that will make you a little spry come morning. Well, we most likely won't have until morning. I believe the Minotaur will attack. It would be in their best interest to attack before the dawn, I believe. But it's hard to tell. Regardless, you should take the best sleep that you can. I can help with that. She will start heading into her hut in as much of a rush as she can muster.
Before I take this, is there anything that I can do for you?
I want you and the others in as best a situation as you can be tomorrow. I don't have the level and fight in me that I did even 5 winters ago. This winter I feel the chill of the cold and the I merely wish you young ones to fight well and at the very least hobble the dragon. I know you've already done very well. You all have. And I know that the Minotaur we face now are only a fraction of the size they used to be because you communicated with them. But there are some fights you can't run from or wait out. So just fight well tomorrow.
Leha, one more thing. I think, and I'm no authority, but I think it's best if you hide tomorrow so that we have somewhere to take our wounded. Perhaps the cave. Gale is in there.
Very well. That makes sense. All those who are not able to fight, we should keep safe.
I'll ask my scouts to keep an eye for wounded, to bring them to you.
That is a wise choice. She will raise to you a warm mug of a herbal tea.
I have to take it to go, but just in case the worst happens, I love you.
Ah.
I know. And she'll leave. And I want to go to Griff and see if he's made any progress on that bow.
Oh, yes! That's actually, that's real important. Griff would have made your longbow, which, as we discussed last time, your longbow, I mean, you're a tiny person. You know, a longbow is not functional. So really, this would be kind of like, I'm not as good in the terminology as I should be, but the way the wood bends allows it to actually get a lot more, like, strength upon the string.
Torque.
Almost like, a lot more torque. Almost like a recurve bow or something. I imagine as you do pull back, the bow does kind of, like, stretch in a very organic way, because it is just well-made, flexible wood, treated in the way to make it high quality, the shaping perfect, all that sort of thing. This is quite literally a masterwork piece of equipment, which makes it a longbow that you can wield, which ups your damage and range, which is pretty big, especially when you're fighting a dragon who might be flying.
Excellent. I'm gonna name the bow Griff Bow.
Sure.
And if you want to just give me the stats for it, that would be...
Oh, it's literally just a longbow from the book, and also you should be able, you can probably look that up in actually Roll20's compendium thing. You just type longbow.
Sure. I will, instead of doing this, I will just
Drag and drop it.
a
Make sure you don't
longbow.
grab the proficiency, though. We all
Yep.
do it every time. You're like, why won't you drop? Oh.
I just do it by hand, like Gary Gygax intended.
I wonder where you're going. That I was like
No.
God intended.
Is this
Yeah.
a regular longbow?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, it's masterwork, but that doesn't really exist. It's really that like you could use it without proficiency. It's made for you.
Hey, little cutie.
Neil, you better turn around, because we're coming to you. That's right.
Oh.
You don't just get to introspect alone, because as you're up there on the hill, at the graveyard...
Introspect alone.
Yeah. Torin, you're up there upon the hill, meditating. Not even meditating, just thinking, right? At the little pool, which has the kind of almost gazebo structure up above it to kind of protect it and also give some artistry to this area, which, usually as time has grown, but the graveyard looks like a very natural fixture now, with the wall that's kind of grown and combined with the wall around the graveyard, and the way that snow has lain on everything. You hear the not-so-subtle crunching of footsteps, and Oscar actually sort of come up behind you and put a big hand on your shoulder and sit down beside you while being like, ugh. You know, as he would. It doesn't say anything immediately, you know.
Yeah, Torin will give him like a sort of semi-awkward smile when he sits down, and then go back to staring at the blackish pond, watching the little squid octopus move around in it.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
He'll take a bit, but then he'll say, I don't know if thinking heavily upon death is the right course of action now.
I'm not scared of dying. I'm scared of failing and everyone else dying because of me.
I understand that. I've been in many battles like this. Many before I came to find a home like this. You never want to see your comrades fall. It can get in your head, though. You keep thinking about it. That could make you freeze. Not do the right thing under pressure. If you worried so much about whether your course of action will cause a death, it may very well lead you to panic, make the wrong decision.
I suppose that's why I'm here.
Aye. Maybe, Ing will be on our side. I mean, we've, like it is, and you know Oscar doesn't know much about this kind of thing. Well, we built this shrine, and Richter's spear is crafted to Ing. We have the winds of Eirik and the nature of Oilin and the support of Ing. Well, we're doing pretty well, right?
Torren can hear a sort of tone in his voice, and he straightens himself up a little bit. We're doing great. We've got nature. We've got the airs, the winds, the breath, life, and death on our side. One way or another will prevail tomorrow. If I don't bury me here, send me out on a boat, a raft, anything. Just I don't want to live my whole life here and then spend my whole time resting after it here as well. I want to travel at least a little bit. If not in this life, in the next.
He will quite slowly get up. Oscar's an old man now, but and nod. Very well. Leha might have a fit, but I outrank her
I think
anyway.
when he says that, Torren would wince. Maybe leave it like 5-10 minutes before him, once he's left, and then go to Leha's.
Sure. Leha is looking through old books. The very, the old water-damaged books that have the teachings of your ancestors upon them. I wondered when you'd come to visit me. Your little friend had.
Well, I've not come for what she came for. I've done my best to follow in the footsteps you've laid out. I'll do my best to do so tomorrow. You've always treated me fairly, kindly. What I want to say is thank you. And then in a display he hasn't done for Leha before, he'd step up and he'd hug her.
She would actually hug you back, which you know is not very likely, because she's not really into such displays of affection. And when you kind of step back, she'll shake her head and like, it has been an honor to teach you what I know. And you might not believe it, but you have surpassed any blessings I could muster.
Let's hope I can surpass any blessings I can muster.
Whatever you can, and whatever the spirits can give you tomorrow, it will be enough and it will be right. I can't know exactly what's coming. We have the Minotaur and the dragon. Just the dragon, perhaps. Just the Minotaur, perhaps. But this is the issue with that Malekith. She's smart. Ah, that's the thing. She thinks she's smart. And will be where we get her. Smart people always overthink things. I'm sure that dragon will have the grandest, greatest plan of all to wipe us off the map. And it'll be in her overthinking that eventually it'll all fall apart, and we just beat her. You never account for that.
I'm gonna head to bed. Good night, Leia. Stay safe tomorrow.
Aye. You too.
And Torin would head off.
Exactly. And, this is a good place for a little break. We can actually kind of start the morning, because the next day will take more than one session, most likely, unless we kind of start it today, which will be a bit of fun. So, we'll be back in a couple of minutes.